Okay, with Nigel Lee and Ashley Barrios, HOPPA is the screenplay, the winning screenplay played at our horror festival. So, how did you guys? First of all, how did you guys meet?
We've actually been together for 20 years now.
Okay,
Surprise.
like
We met
together
at
as
a
writing
restaurant,
partners, or do you guys have?
together
Yeah,
married too.
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've been married 10 years together, 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually met, her dad ran a restaurant in the
okay,
small town of Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I was a grill cook and she was a hostess. And we've been together ever since. We started writing together about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, not too long. Yeah.
Oh, so you guys were together for 18 and a half years, and then after 18 and a half years, you're like, let's start writing together.
Let's start writing screenplays. We
Okay.
just we actually are cleaning out something in our garage and we had to move about 400 paintings that I'd made. So I can consider myself a hobbyist by nature, maybe too much. So this was another hobby we got into. Not having kids, you end up having a need for hobbies to bring you together, and screenwriting was one of them.
Yep.
Makes sense. So the first 10 years, uh, what took you so long to ask her to marry you?
Actually, we got together, we were very young,
Okay.
and her mom liked me and literally pulled me aside and said, "Look, I'm good with you, but
I'm good
don't
with you.
I'm
yeah,
good
I'm
with
good
you.
with you, but don't get
You're
her
fine.
pregnant. Don't ask her to marry you until you both figure out your lives." And I
Okay.
took that to heart. I said, like,
Yeah.
if we're meant to be together, then it's not going to be a big deal. And we both finished up college. I ended up being a paramedic. She ended up working in finance.
Yep.
And at that point, we're like, okay, we can actually pay for stuff and we don't have to have other people rely on us.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do it.
That's very practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not in my nature to be that practical, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. I'm a jumper always, but
Yeah.
It
her
is in
mom
mine.
asked.
It is in mine. We
Yeah.
balance each other out in that sense. Yeah.
That's terrific. All right. Well, congratulations on everything so far. Okay. So a year and a half ago, you just started writing screenplays. What do you remember if is there an origin story about how that happened?
So I really wanted to, I've always been a storyteller. I've made jokes, I did it stand-up comedy, stuff like that, when most of it was just me telling stories. And we have always had this like ongoing, wow, one day something's gonna happen, you're gonna write something or you're gonna do something, and I'm gonna just be that person on the side. I'm like, well, we could do it together. So I had this idea of a 30 something year old guy quitting being a paramedic and going out to Hollywood and trying to make it work. And it was a comedy, almost laughing at itself, the fresh off the boat attitude.
Yeah.
And we decided, I wrote like a real rough draft and I brought it to her and I was like, I could really use some help with this, thinking she was just going to help edit it. But instead of helping edit it, she actually like helped me understand what I was trying to write, help build upon the story. And I was like, well, we should probably do this more. So we finished that one, and it was just like a comedy pilot. Nothing ever came from it. And then we had went to Iceland 2 years ago, and that feeling of isolation always sat with me a little bit. And I came down from showering one day with this wild idea, and we said, let's write about it. And that's how Hoppa started.
And actually, have you ever wanted the rights? Like,
Yeah,
was writing
I
something
actually got
in
kicked out of class in high school for writing little stories and stuff like that instead of doing work.
your?
But I found out later I was dyslexic. So I always had a really hard time sitting down and actually focusing and sticking with one thing long enough.
Yeah.
I was always jumping around. I'd come write a sketch for a comedy. I'd write an idea for comedy, start to build it out, and then something else would occupy my eyes, like somebody shaking keys in front of me.
Yeah.
She has a little bit more of a set system where she like gets into stuff and she masters it. So we kind of use both of our abilities together. So
Yeah, it was never something for me that I was like, oh, I want to be a writer. I never actually even thought about doing something like that. I'm in finance still, so I work for Microsoft in finance. So very just not the typical like creative type that you would see in this industry, but I
Yeah.
actually really got into it and just started learning and growing and adjusting as we're trying to tell the story. We're huge movie buffs too, so we just feel like we have a certain eye and a certain voice for it. And so sort of what I do is take his bigger ideas and just make them more concise and make sure that it's being told in the right way, in the most compelling way, and the most relatable way.
and that usually changes the story a bit
Yeah.
for the better. So If it was just like her taking some stuff and just editing it or making sure I'm doing it, it would, that's what I thought she would be good at. Instead, she's good at morphing the story, and the story ends up becoming something totally different and much more tangible at that point.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a good balance. Yeah.
I never do this, but I got an idea for your next screenplay.
Yeah.
Young grill cook and a hostess the hostess happens, their dad happens to own the restaurant. They meet, they fall in love, and crazy shenanigans take place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually could, that would actually be really
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Like the real life story of it is actually
There's
pretty
so
wild.
many funny
So,
stories in a
I'm
kitchen.
sure.
Yeah.
yeah. And in South
Yeah.
Louisiana too, at that venue. So yeah.
And one would assume that running or owning a restaurant is very stressful too, right?
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
Is
in
the restaurant still
actuality,
there?
yeah,
It
and
is,
her
it
dad
is.
still
Yeah,
runs
he's
it
still
too.
That's amazing.
You know, when he found out we were dating, he actually pulled me in the office and I thought he was going to fire me. And
Yeah.
he was like, I didn't really know you. So I looked through your records and realized you'd been working here like a year and a half and never got a raise. So I'm going to give you a $2 raise. And I was like, okay. I walked out and she's like, did he fire you? And I was like, no, he gave me a raise. And she's like, he never gave me a raise.
I know. And then I asked for a raise and he just laughed at me and walked off. I was like, fair.
Yeah. Well, if he fired you, that would there's a lawsuit that could have taken place.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
Louisiana in the early 2000s, not really. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude though.
Yeah.
No, that worked out.
Well, that's amazing. How close are you guys to New Orleans?
Right now we live in Seattle.
Yeah.
So we're
Okay,
pretty,
okay, gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
But originally where we grew up is about an hour
About an
south.
hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
South. So there, yeah, not a lot of people really even understand that there's like a south portion of Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's like basically in the water.
Those
New
two
Orleans.
little legs that
Yeah.
you got, we're the
Yeah.
shorter leg. That's Lafourche Parish. And I'm from a place called La Rose, and she's from Thibodeau.
Thibodeau.
And they're about 40 minutes away. And Thibodeau is about an hour south of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at the map of the United States, Seattle and New Orleans are like they couldn't be farther from or
Yeah.
farther away from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different. We've been out here, what, 8 years?
Almost 8 years.
8 years now.
Yeah.
Because you work at Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was a paramedic and I wanted to get into nonprofit and try and help people a little bit before they needed an ambulance. And nonprofit sector isn't really that big of a deal in the South. And out in the West, it's much bigger.
What's the biggest difference of like the care of the human kind of the person who lives in New Orleans or like sorry Louisiana than Washington State? Like, is there a
So-
difference?
Great question.
The New Orleans person is going to say hi to you right away, ask you if you're okay, maybe even offer you to get some food.
Yeah.
But when you get closer to them, you start to see the connivingness of it. Like
Okay.
we're all survivors in the South. So
Okay.
the South people in the
Yeah.
South will take what they need from you eventually. Whereas Seattle, no one will say hi to you ever. They're looking down straight at their phone, or you might have a really nice night with somebody and never talk to them again. But if you actually get close to them, you'll end up like family with them. So it's
Okay.
actually it's a weird type of they're both good people in different
In
instances.
totally different spectrums. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I think
so you agree with
that's
what he
something
just
to do with
said?
that.
What's that?
You agree with what he just said?
I think for the most part, I don't feel like the people, guess I feel like the people in Louisiana are so conniving. They can be, don't get me wrong. It's like a little bit kind of rough around the edges, super nice up front, and then can get that way. But I think the Seattle aspect for sure is, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with. There's a thing called Seattle Freeze out here. I'm not sure if you've heard it. And it's basically like you could meet people, you could have the best time, and then you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And it's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's not like a personal offense or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's just people are busy and have their own lives and
Yeah.
they sort of stick to it. And
And a
especially,
lot of the people here are transplants too. So
Yeah,
we all
that's
live
true.
in transplant lives that have friends at home and family at home at another state or
Yeah.
something like that. So we're just all looking for like single serving friends almost.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense what you just
Yeah.
said. Okay, so the screenplay is about this couple who travel to Iceland, and there's like I guess there's some insecurity, or they're struggling with like any relationship. It's not easy, right? Any marriage. So one would assume you're a married couple who wrote this screenplay that a little bit autobiographical. Can I
So
leap to that conclusion?
no, it
You
is. It
can,
is.
in a weird way, you can. Yeah.
We never really had a moment where we were insecure about each other, but we were insecure about losing ourselves in each other. And that was the idea that initially sparked this. Now, all the problems each character has is us.
Yeah.
What I did instead of like trying to make like the female character have all aspects of Ashley, we kind of tore it on its head. We took the male character and made him have a little bit more of the type A personality and had the female have a little bit more of the wild personality. But then after that, we took every other issue that we've had and we mixed them
Sort
up.
of intertwined. So each character is a little bit of both of us.
Yeah, like
And like the worst parts of us,
mhm.
best and worst parts. And so it's a mix. It's
Yeah.
not one to one.
And it helped out when writing this because we could be really honest and really vulnerable with each other and know it's not going to be depicted exactly in that way in the script because it's morphed. That person has this problem, which neither one of us have both of those. And it actually worked out. It made the writing a lot more honest. It made it more clean and it flushed out the characters a bit and made them more breathable. And we found a lot of people see that in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think we're both very self-aware people of our faults. And like, just since we've been together for so long and we've been through so many things and we sort of like grew up together since we got together so young, it's just none of this, as we were writing, it was a surprise to either one of us. It's kind of like, oh yeah, that's definitely
Every
me.
once in a while you'd get like a,
yeah,
my
like, oh, that's me. That's definitely me. But
Yeah.
it was something that we're just very well aware of sort of who we are as people and sort of how that can clash between each other and also how that can make each other better.
Yeah.
Okay, so the genre is really a psychological thriller or I guess a horror film, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of throwing this genre at the story as well, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When we were in Iceland, there was just something about the people there that they are the nicest humans. They're almost like, I guess, is saving something for each other. Like they just have a secret almost that you don't know about, like the secret to their happiness. It's one of the happiest places in the world. There's no crime. There's a truth that there's no natural born predators in Iceland at all, not wolves, not bears, nothing like that. The island also has no trees, which is something no one really knows that the Vikings cut down on trees. So it's terribly isolating. And we found that that's a metaphor for relationships. And whether they're good or bad relationships, at times you feel completely isolated, both from who you were when you started the relationship, but who you are now within the relationship. So it seemed almost inevitable to make it a horror because tapping into those emotions are freaking frightening. And it
Sounds like you guys did it when writing the script.
yeah, and we were able to pull that off and add. So at one point, there was only really one horror aspect, which is the dinner, and it's supposed to be that major gripping moment in there. And then we're like, we should really steer into this horror. It actually worked, and we added a couple of more things, and now it feels like it's always pulling at your thread. You never really know why this is happening, and that's an allegory to relationships in itself.
Yeah, and there's a lot of trauma in the story for both characters as well, and on different spectrums, and just having that sort of more literal horror feel to as they kind of embark on this journey and go through and are having this experience together, bringing that trauma back in a very like visceral way just felt right as we kept writing it.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, like I said, like the right, like it sounded like there's very therapeutic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The script.
Oh, definitely. There's problems that we were like really digging into each other for that we never even talk about. And it's kind of because we wrote about it, because we saw what acting like that, like long term, would cause. It would cause not understanding. It would cause isolating your partner from your trauma. We're like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be these characters. So it actually helped out a lot. We get into a lot less arguments and these little ticky-tack arguments since it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good couples therapist. That's a good thing.
Exactly.
Tell the couple to write a story.
He invented a
Yeah.
therapy. Look at that.
Yeah, I think you did, right? So, because I think what you're saying is that a lot of ways when you're in a relationship, especially when you're around, when you're with someone for a long time, there's all these things that pile up, right? And it's
Mhm.
usually an outside force that forces that pile up to come out, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And we wanted to have it be something that would pull it out of the characters.
yeah,
And jarring frightfulness with a constant moving, it's almost a road trip movie, also in the same thing. We felt would, and they are constantly isolated within a van. It constantly brings out those traumas. So they feel they need to talk about it. And we were also able to use journals to kind of interlay the past trauma without, info dumping
yeah.
onto people.
So did you guys go to a couples therapy program when you went to Iceland?
No,
That's all
actually,
you
no.
got.
No, we didn't. We just
We,
went for a trip.
yeah,
Yeah.
we went for a full trip with a couple friends of ours, and there was never any bad things that happened. The Icelandic people are wonderful, and we hope that we're showing a more of an emotional intelligence that they have. Because even if this were to be real, they're not doing harm to anyone as much as they're trying to help. It's just, help sometimes seems very scary in certain hands.
100%. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this script, and it's like, first of all, what's HOPPA mean? Why'd
So
you
it
call it
actually
HOPPA?
means jump in Icelandic,
Okay,
which is the idea that every relationship is a leap of faith. And to do that, you have to take a jump. So the word hoppa literally translates to jump in Icelandic.
gotcha. It's interesting the way you talked about Seattle people in terms of like their relationships, right? Where it's like I've always defined like a relationship is always about boundaries and expectations, right?
Hmm.
So it seems like the Seattle people are like, I have an expectation for you in the moment, and then we
Hmm.
can move on with our lives, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. It's
It's a little
very
more
much like that.
transactional.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not in a bad way. People just have, a lot going on. They're super nice people, great
Yeah.
people out here. It's nothing against that. It's just more transactional, get to
yeah.
know you, move on sort of
And so
thing.
then when you're married with somebody, a lot of times it's the expectations that you have for each other that
Yep.
set up conflicts, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yep. And that honestly, coming to a city like this and not
Yeah,
being able to, I mean, we're from the South. We left hundreds of friends. Like that's just
yeah,
how it is. You have a bunch of friends. We came out here and it was isolating for ourselves, but we actually grew together from it. And some people could grow apart. And I
yeah.
think that had a little bit of a influence in Hoppa as well.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Because you have to recreate all these relationships, right? Yeah,
Yep. That's correct.
And it's
Yeah.
it's necessary for the human
yeah.
system for us to have relationships. No matter how introverted you can be, it is necessary to have some type of relationship with other humans.
So and then the jump on what I was saying is that other times it's like we're idealistic towards our partner, so we think that they're going to turn into something or be something, and it's like
Hmm.
and they become something else, and it's like we don't know how to handle that, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's nuts.
To
No,
grow with it. Yep.
constantly growing.
constantly growing, yeah. But it's yeah, it sounds like an interesting. It sounds like it like it. You guys got a lot out of the screenplay, so
Yeah. Yeah, I really think it helped our relationship, but it also helped us gain confidence in our writing. We just put out our first draft in our next thing,
Mhm.
and a lot of people seem to like it. We still got a lot of work with it before we put it in any competitions,
yeah,
but it gave us the confidence to move on to something else. Recently, I just left a movie set where I'm jumping on to do any type of PA stuff now, learning how to actually make movies.
yeah,
Flew out to New Orleans, made a
Yeah.
movie, and in 14 days, like a $4 million movie, and it was awesome. Walked in as a non-paid intern,
yeah.
left having my own crew and being like in the conversations with the directors and all that. So it was awesome. We hope to eventually one day, if especially if no one else decides to make our movies, we want to make them ourselves.
Yep.
So it sounds like it's turning into something bigger than a hobby, though.
Yeah, this one, I think writing in this period of time has a lot of pros to it. Of course, with AI looming, there's a lot of negatives, but you can actually get feedback, through events like this, festivals, through just getting coverages. And a lot of the other hobbies you do, you know, you want feedback. I'm, I just created 5 pieces of random, you know, art that I just put in my house. She can look at it and say, hey, it's good, but you can't really get outside feedback on that. Same thing with writing music. It's really hard to get feedback, honest feedback on music. You can pay for honest feedback as a writer and get better at it day by day. And that's something we took advantage of,
Yeah.
and it's helped us. And now it does not feel like a hobby. It feels like something on the horizon that we could do.
Yeah.
Because you guys did the consult, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and were you guys both a part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were.
We were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it went really well.
Yeah.
And the consult, it seemed like she like really didn't understand that we were a couple making this, and it meant a lot more to her whenever she realized it. She's like, that is so awesome, because it felt like maybe a woman writer or something like that, but it was actually 2 different people writing for the other person. And it helped her see our characters a lot more.
Yeah. Well, as you know, most people can't have like because it's two relationships. You guys are a married couple, and then you're also a writing partner.
Yeah.
So most people can't have one successful relationship. It's hard to have two, right? So
Now, don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
think we'd have started this in year 2. It would
It
have
would have
shattered
yeah,
it.
it's all about
We
timing,
had to
right?
go through years of
Yeah.
like knowing everything about each other to move on. We could not have been this honest in year 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I was like reaching, it's almost like your babies, right? The
Yep.
screenplay is your baby.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's it. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I started coming up with these hobbies for us to do. I was like, as we get older, work is going to pull us away from each other. We need something to constantly come
That's
together,
cool.
constantly believe in something together. So, and screenplay was just one of the things I threw in the hat. Didn't know if it was going to stick. It stuck really well. We
Yeah.
we enjoy the weekends that we can spend all day just coming up with something, writing a little bit about it. She takes her edit time to go over this, and she comes to me with more ideas. It really works for us.
All right, it's fantastic. I love your story. Thanks for your candor. Before we leave you guys, I gotta ask you the one question from your blog interview. We asked you, what movie have you seen the most times in your life? And Nigel, you said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Got a Ninja Turtle
Dude,
right over
Secret of
there.
the Ooze.
The
Yeah,
podcast. You
that's
notice?
awesome.
All right, I don't have a Jennifer Love Hewitt for you, Ashley.
Yeah, no, I would be a little bit surprised if you did. So
It would be a little creepy as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So, so tell me about why, Nigel, first of all, that you why did you pick? Why is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze? Why is that the movie you've seen the most times in your
So
life?
secret about me is I actually performed as Vanilla Ice in my 4th grade talent show
Okay.
because of that movie. And probably from 4th, 5th grade on till maybe college times, I watched it once a week. So it was just one of those movies that whenever I was anxious or anything like that, I could pop it on. I had 2 VHS, one original and one like remastered. Once I got away from VHS, I probably have only seen the movie probably 5, 6 times since then,
Well,
but hundreds of times as a kid.
so okay, so then what do you think about the new kind of iterations
The
of the
cartoon was really good. I really enjoyed the cartoon iteration. They have a new live action one coming out right now.
yeah.
I think they're really good. They always tackle really good, stories. Like this last one tackled a lot of stories of racism using the turtles as an outside set. So I really enjoyed that. It seems like the writers constantly try and keep it in the realm of a comic book, which is where it started.
Yeah, it was interesting animation the way they animated it
Yeah,
too.
I really love the animation.
And so, okay, so let's talk about Kane. How did he wait? I remember watching this movie. I was in my early
Right.
20s, and when it first
Right.
came out, 1998. I know
Yeah.
1999. Sorry, I know exactly where I was. It was at the first weekend. I don't think I've seen it since, but I still remember this movie. So what? Why does that movie stand out for you?
Yeah, I think I think it's a timing thing and it's a nostalgia thing. So I was in high school when it came out, and so it just was very relatable in that way. It's an easy watch, it's carefree, it's got good characters, it's funny.
It's
Cute,
quotable as hell.
quotable,
Yeah.
cute little love story. Eve 6 is on the soundtrack, which was like huge at the time. It's just it's a nostalgia kind of thing that I just used to have a VCR recorder in my bedroom, and I would like to fall asleep to TV on, so I just put the movie in, and I would just constantly watch it and fall asleep to it, and I would just, whenever I had free time, I would just have it on in the background kind of thing, and so I know the movie back and front. It's just
Watch it again. I bet you dig it. I bet you like this is actually pretty good.
I'm definitely gonna watch it again. It's like because it's like it was that teenage kind of party. It was like before American Pie, I think, came.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's less vulgar than that, and I wouldn't say American Pie is vulgar or anything, but they focus less on the dehumanizing parts of being a teenager, and they focus on the end of it, like you're
the end of high school, right?
Yeah.
But it's
So
like
really
it's like privileged white kids.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
But then again, I was a privileged white kid too. Like, that's why.
Yeah. Exactly. House party after graduation.
You'll love it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's good.
Is there a character that you like related to in the movie?
I wouldn't say I related to this character, but Seth Green's character has always been my favorite. I don't know if you remember that he's in it.
He did. He got locked in the bathroom with from 6 Feet Under, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, he was just a good overall, fun-loving, super, like, came off a little bit rough around the edges, but really nice person in the end. And everyone just sort of wants to belong and be liked in that movie, and it's just it's a good feel good.
Yeah, we've all been that person that's faked it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I remember when that movie, because I was just getting into, I finished film school, so I was starting to analyze films. I remember it was like it's a film about mask. Everybody is wearing a mask in the movie, right? So
exactly.
And they all have their turn. Like all the main characters have their turn to take it off too and show what's underneath, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Some good, some bad, but
yeah.
And I remember the guy looks like Tom Cruise or whatever. He's the one who didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because he's the one who like he's vulnerable with the kind of nerdy guy, and then he kind of like he shames him again at the end of the movie, right? So
at the end. Yep.
After he sees the person that he thought was the most popular guy.
Yeah.
Around his friends, he doesn't want to,
McNeil.
No, Trip McNeely was the old one. This is Mike Dexter.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
See, she knows it.
Yeah.
No, I just remember that character. He looked exactly like Tom Cruise. Like, right. And Peter Facinelli. I'm just looking at it. Peter Facinelli, and they've all done well for themselves.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Decent careers came out of that.
Yeah, I think the guy Dexter was he was a mainstay in the Twilight series, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was the dad in the Twilight series.
That is true.
So they've all done well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like, all right. Well, on that note, I'm gonna watch that film again, and in 27 years, isn't that amazing?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't.
You can see it in my beard now. So
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you got your script is great, and it seems like you guys really know what you're doing, and I think that I'd love to see it made into a film. I think it's got something. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Matt.
Thank you. And not just a hobby anymore. So
no, not
anymore. We're full time in it now. So
All right. Congratulations on everything. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Bye.